Good morning.
Good morning,
Howdy.
fellas.
How are you guys?
I'm doing well. How about yourselves?
Good.
Can't complain.
Can't complain. Who would listen?
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. So we got a juicy topic here, right? That people stay up at night about.
I don't know if they stay up about it a night about it, but they might. It just depends on how much of a worry you are, or if you have taken it into consideration. But uh, the question is like what would happen and how would you pay your bills if you were injured and you were unable to work? What would you do? And this kind of comes close to home for me because I was recently in an accident. There was an explosion that I was nearby, and 10% of my body was burnt with second degree burns. I was My clothing was on fire, and so I had to stop, drop, and roll. Luckily, I was able
So does
to.
that work? Stop, drop, and roll. Does it work?
It didn't work as well as I had hoped, and in fact, my friend who was there is such a great friend because he said, "Lay still. I'm going to lay on top of you, and I'm going to put out the fire because it would not go out." And when
That's
you've been
okay.
rolling over around the backyard for what seems like a lifetime, and you're still on fire, it's very very stressful. But luckily, I missed work for about a week and a half. But that could have been way worse. And so I was laying around, very grateful that it was not worse. I was thinking, about how important disability insurance is, because if I was unable to work for longer, I would be able to bank on an emergency fund that I have saved, which is important. But not everybody has an emergency fund. So in that case, I think short-term disability is a good benefit to have if you have it through work or if you're able to purchase it independently. But more importantly, if I was injured for a very extended period of time, a long-term disability insurance policy would have come in handy. And basically, it says that if you become disabled, um, they're going to pay a portion of what your regular income is, and it's typically the most that you can get around is about 60% of what your income is. So a lot of people live outside of their means. If you can live within 60% of what your income is, you'd be good right off the bat to be able to make sure everything is covered, at least for your permanent expenses. But
Well,
uh,
let's dive into that 60% real quick. So there's other variables involved, right? So if you get disabled and you structure the policy correctly, that disability income, so the protection, that 60% is non-taxable.
Yeah. So if you're getting personal coverage and you take no tax deduction on the premium that you're paying, then the benefits that you get from that policy are tax free. So really, it's 60% of what your income is. But if you're not paying federal or state income taxes on it, then it will stretch a little bit further.
So what would it be fair to if we're advising an individual or an individual is deciding, do I pursue disability income insurance? Look at your pay stub, don't look at the top line, look at the bottom line.
Absolutely.
And then you compare 60% times the top line. So you look at the bottom line, your net pay versus 60% of your gross pay. It's probably going to be about the same.
Yeah, there would be some differences too because there's retirement savings that are coming out of your paycheck, which that I wouldn't offset that. And then health insurance as well. And you also got to take into consideration that if you become disabled, your expenses might be higher, uh, you know, as a result of the disability.
Mhm.
Um, you might need to outfit your house differently. You might have to have a special vehicle. If you can still, if you still are able to drive, there's different costs that might be associated with that disability that you don't currently have.
Right. Good point.
So, it probably is better than what it is because you're not paying tax on it, but trying to get as much of a benefit as you can. But the reason that they limit it to 60% is because if you could get 100% of whatever your pay was and you were disabled, there were maybe more people that are disabled.
Right.
Magically.
There's no benefit to coming out of that disability and becoming a contributing part of society from a work standpoint.
Right.
Again,
It's designed as a safety net, not as the alternative lifestyle.
right.
Right.
So if something were to happen to you, then it's there for you to pay you through, and typically the policies will pay through your full retirement age for social till Social Security kicks in, and it's a lot easier to get coverage from disability than it would be disability through Social Security, and to even qualify for Social Security disability, you have to have like 40 quarters of working. So for a young person, it's really especially important to look at this because one, you already don't qualify for Social Security disability de facto, and then two is that the younger you are, the more missed years of working you could have.
Hmm.
So your human capital is a lot higher. Your value as a young person entering the workforce with the remaining years that you have working is a lot more than somebody who has a couple of years left to work. So
Right.
if you're really approaching retirement, or you're already at retirement age, then that might, and you're carrying a disability insurance policy, that might be a reason, to let that policy either lapse or cancel it. But
So one of the ways to look at, which I think our clients are, or the normal person is more used to, how much life insurance do I need to pay the mortgage, to have enough money for college for the kids, pay any other outstanding debts. That's the way to look at how much life insurance to have. In contrast to disability, you're looking at your ability to earn income. So you almost have to take your income, multiply it by the amount of years that you feel you can work, and that's the asset that would be missing if you get disabled and you don't look at disability insurance coverage.
yeah, if you're out 40 years of work, you have to, multiply that times what your income is going to be for those years. And of course you could discount it, because it's earlier in time with the time value of money, but you don't get it all at once either. So, and you could be missing out on advancements in your career as well as a result of the disability. So it would keep you at a lower benefit that's available to pay. But yeah, if you're thinking about how much money that you need to retire on, and you're going to have a 20-year, 30-year retirement, you have to have some money saved up. When you're younger, you have to get through the rest of your life plus any potential retirement period with no ability to earn income. So you're having a disability insurance policy is extremely valuable. And say if you were making $100,000, and you had to pay $5,000 a year towards disability coverage, and your net amount is 95,000, but if you got hurt and you couldn't work any longer, it paid you a $60,000 a year benefit. That's a lot more valuable than a $95,000 a year pay that if you
Potentially
got
tax
hurt
free too, right?
doesn't have anything. Yeah, the 60,000 could be structured to be tax free.
Right.
So, if you don't have disability insurance coverage, I would highly recommend it.
So I think the process would be, check your, wherever you're employed,
Hmm.
check to see if you have short-term and long-term disability, two different policies. So check with your employer first. And once you know what you have through your group coverage, it's normally called, then you can look at individual coverage to either supplement the long-term disability insurance that you have through work, or if you don't have it, you look at paying and qualifying for it on an individual basis.
Yeah, and if you don't have it at work, but it's offered, I would look at what the cost is there compared to what the cost is to purchase it individually. Typically, the terms of coverage are better when you purchase it individually. So there is a price comparison to look at. But if it's going to be cost you just as much through the group policy as it would individually, probably purchase it individually. And that way, if you leave work, uh,
You're
there's no
with you.
chance that it will be lost.
Right.
Right.
Do you think we missed anything, Tucker?
I know I'm trying to sit here and think. The one thing that kind of came to my mind going back when we were talking about Social Security disability and qualifying for that is I think in order to qualify, obviously, like Skylar said, the 40 quarters of work, but I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 2 year waiting period before you can actually qualify for Social Security disability. So if you don't have your own disability, you know, 2 years of no income, especially if you're severely handicapped or disabled, could really have a negative impact on your life and your family's life, I would say.
Yeah, it depends on what the situation is.
Right.
I know for a fact if you have kidney failure, it's an automatic. You're in.
Yep.
But then there's been other folks that we've worked with, and they're unable to work or at least do the job that they were doing before, and they have had applied for Social Security disability and were denied.
Mm,
So I don't know all of those specific circumstances as to why they was approved or denied. But I do know that these instances do exist, which would make sense just to cover it on your own, and not to mention that Social Security Board of Trustees has been projecting as early as 2035 that the trust fund to be able to support Social Security isn't going to be there anymore, and then it would be fully funded then by payroll taxes and about a 77% payroll tax amount, or that payroll taxes will be able to cover about 77% of what the benefits are.
mm.
So
So don't rely on Social
yeah,
Security.
there is question as to there's going to be Social Security reform in the future. So if there's something that is feasible for yourself to take care of, I would probably rely on that before Social Security.
Right.
So, in summation, we highly encourage spending some time on disability and how you, your family, your balance sheet, your bills, how all of that would be affected if you're unable to receive a paycheck. And then let us know if you have questions about your specific situation. And we're happy to go through that with you to help determine what your best course of action is. All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Good
Thanks,
seeing
Greg.
you.
Thanks, Tucker.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Take care.
See you all.